One thing that's true about men is that men will work to the best of their ability, regardless of how strenuous a job may be, and they take great pride and courage in completing a task or getting work done. Now, of course, as you can see in my picture, I, as well as other people, usually have this stereotype that a man's man works in such jobs that requires physical strength, and he has to use his arms, his muscle, and all these different things. And then the other side of that spectrum is being incorporated with the idea that men working in tech and knowing how to process numbers or get through these binary codes and all this other stuff. And, it's unusual for a man's man job to be affiliated with things like working in retail, working in food and market and stuff like that, unless the man is using his strength to move products from maybe particularly a truck into the store or whatever have you. But today's conversation is going to be one of those sort of things that I want to bring to your attention, because it's one of the sort of things we need to figure out, not only because of the effect of the pandemic, but also just this has been something that's been going on. See, it reminds me of how it was probably in the 50s and 60s, about how it came to a lot of these workforces and a lot of these jobs that required men to be in these steel mills, to be in these factories in order to basically driven up the economy, especially by the automobile boom. And with that being said, a lot of these like factories basically got done in the late 60s and then into the 70s and stuff like that, where a lot of men had to take pay cuts. And then a lot of men that came from war was pretty much asked out because they wasn't able to get the proper care that they wanted to get from the war. So that caused a lot of men to go ahead and have low self-esteem, drink their problems away, start hooking up on drugs, abandoning their family, or feeling like they were out of place and got into lower self-esteem because they wasn't able to work to the best of their ability because they only knew one trade. And the thing about it is, it was such a sad time because the PTSD issues, crime, poverty, and all these different things was a contributing factor of the low-level problems that happened in the 70s and 80s, especially with the introduction of drugs happening in the neighborhood. But now when you see a lot of these different things that's going on, one of the analysis that I make from these type of things is that when it comes to men in the workforce today, a lot of men are giving up on the workforce. But does that give way to a lot of men wanting to delete themselves because they are overwhelmed with these positions that's offered to them, or because they're not getting the proper pay that they deserve? A lot of answers, a lot of questions would go into this analysis that I make today about the man's man of today, and especially the man that has low self-esteem because the woman that he's with or the woman he's interested in makes more money than him. So he's sitting back and feeling like he's not the manly man because the woman that he's in a relationship with makes far more income and he makes less income. So he doesn't feel like he's a man's man. So today's article I'm going to be reviewing with you, part of it I'm going to read. The rest that you can check out on your own. I'll leave the description. I'll leave the article in my description. And we're just going to go over this today and check it out. So, Pete, this is an article from 2022. And it says, "Men are struggling. A new book explores why and what to do about it." Shout outs to Andrea. Friday's job numbers from the Labor Department showed a continuing worrisome trend among men. A smaller and smaller share of them are working. Considered men are of so-called prime working age, 25 to 54. 60 years ago, close to 97% of men in that group were working and looking for work. Since then, there's been a steady decline. In October, the number was 88.5%, a slight dip from the previous 2 months. And while we go over that, also, after the pandemic, it actually went down to about the mid 70s, so about 75%. And then, slowly after the pandemic, since we're talking recently, only probably jumped up probably about maybe 2%. So about 77% of men looking for work or finding work. In a new book, Brookings Institution scholar Richard V. Reeves sounds the alarm about the struggles of men, both in the economy and in society, pleading with policymakers and society at large to pay attention to what's going on and intervene. And as you can see right here, this is the graph in which they say the whole entire thing of the workforce steadily decline, like I said, from the 1960s, which I believe was about the whole entire factory jobs not being readily available, and especially because America started doing more outsourcing to other countries in order to get things like automobiles fulfilled and, infrastructure to be on their level rather than keeping everything American. So it says right here, the share of men in the workforce has seen a steady decline since the 1960s. Titled Of Boys and Men, the book explores the economic, social, and cultural shifts that have forced men to the sidelines of the economy, including the loss of jobs in male-dominated fields such as manufacturing and the influx of women into the workforce, diminishing the need for men to serve as providers for their families. Rather than try to recapture an era that is long gone, Reeves argues we should help men adapt to the jobs of the future, including many that are now overwhelmingly performed by women. In an interview with NPR, Reeves warns if nothing is done to help struggling men, families will become poorer and economic inequality will only worsen. So this is just like a brief, introduction to this. You can actually check out his book more just to read this article a little bit to you guys and to get more of a context. The man of today feeling overwhelmed because the women are taking all the jobs and working in the same professions as him. So there is no uniqueness to a lot of these workforces, causing the man to have low self-esteem. And especially one of the things that we need to bring more attention to, the men wanting to delete themselves because they don't feel like they're honor. They don't feel like they're honor in society. They don't feel like they're worthy of being in society because they're only known for work. They're not known for their personality, what they can do besides actually having a 9-to-5 jobs, or even specifically going after their dreams. It's one of those things that we should encourage to today's man. I think I get so sick and tired of seeing Instagram posts or like YouTube videos or YouTube shorts about a man's man is only a man when you see him lifting iron on his shoulder and moving around in construction sites as if there haven't been extraordinary men that started up companies that has nothing to do with construction or, carpentry. Different things out there that the man has done where it doesn't require all these different things, or even having a man working in security. But then also those industries is also taken up by women as well. So many different things we could look at when it comes to this analysis, but many things that I would mention about the man himself on why a lot of men of today are quitting the workforce. And especially to add this before I end it, also the man not being adequately paid, when he has his pensions and, all these different things out there where the company has done him dirty. I mean, even one of these type of things that I saw online about this man, specifically a so-called black man that I seen that was frustrated when he had went over to his employer to collect his pension check. And they sat up there and said that he only earned probably like double digits in dollars from the pension. And he's been working there for 30 years. See how you get crapped out? And especially I always argue, and also other YouTubers, or one of my favorite YouTubers used to always say, the workforce is no place for the so-called black man. And we've already agreed with that. A lot of times you're given these hard instructions, being disrespected and being carried by the wolves and not being honored for what work you can produce. Today in American society, about how they love to uplift a lot of the immigrants before they uplift their own Native Americans. And I'm not talking directly about Native Americans as a race. I'm talking about the Native Americans that's been Native as in they've been born here for generations and generations. And that's one of the sort of things we need to bring to the table. So give me your thoughts in the comment section. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Peace.